Hello, everyone. Daniel Duran here, Head of Marketing at Citrus Lime, and welcome to our Making the Numbers Work webinar, a special webinar specifically for independent bike retailers. We've just got some people joining the webinar at the moment, so we're just going to give it a second while everybody joins. If you've got any questions that you would like to ask throughout the session, please drop them into the Q&A tab, which you should be able to see in your browser. I'm just going to put a test in there right now and say, hello, everyone. Hopefully everybody can see that. If you pop your questions in there, we can get to them throughout the session or save a bit of time at the end. Just some house rules here. This is a conversation that we're going to be having. We're going to get the benefit of people's lived experience. We've got a great panel joining us here today who will introduce in just a second. And it should last 45 minutes to an hour. We should allow a little bit of time for the Q&A, but I think the time's going to fly because there's a lot of experience on the call and it's going to be a good conversation. So without further ado, I'll introduce our panel. And guys, if you could give a little bit of an introduction to yourselves and let us know where you're at in a business sense, that would be great for everybody joining the call. So, Chad, I think you're pretty well known in the industry as it is, but for anybody that doesn't know you, over to you. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Like a lot of you, started at a bike store I think I was 14, went from working in bike stores to managing bike stores. And then in 2002, I got my BSO, my bike shop ownership, bought a bike store, grew that to 3, sold it in 2023. I was on the NBDA board, loved being on the NBDA board. It was a great part being part of the industry. I was on staff there for a little bit working with retailers, and now I work one-on-one with retailers that are super busy, which doesn't necessarily mean profitable. I help them turn that into being busy but profitable with helping them adopt systems, processes, stuff like that.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us today, Chad. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Cory, over to you.
Yeah, so I'm Cory Cunard, and I own Bike Central in Lamars, Iowa, in the Midwest, a smaller community. So I'm heading into my 3rd year owning the shop there. Prior to that, no experience in the bike industry, so I'm kind of newer in the bike industry. But prior to that, I worked for 10 years for a regional manufacturing company in operations and accounting. So I feel like I bring a little bit of business with me there. And we've seen some really good growth in the last couple of years, and excited to see where Bike Central continues to go.
So you've worked in accounting, a great person to have on the call for knowing the numbers. Definitely. Yep. That's great. Thank you. Appreciate your insight here today. Thanks for joining us, Cory. And then Drew, over to you.
Yes, so I'm Drew Jordan from Augusta, Georgia. I own Andy Jordan's Bicycle Warehouse. I'm 2nd generation family owned. Been in the industry for 35-ish years. Started as a little kid racing BMX and kind of hanging out at the shop, and just got more and more involved in the business as time went on, and officially took it over about 10, 11 years ago. So we're celebrating our 52nd anniversary next month. So we're pretty excited about that. Things as far as business as a whole, I felt like I've learned and relearned the business countless times over these past few years with everything we've all been dealing with in the bike industry. And, we're, despite what a lot of the information that's presented out there from some of the industry newsletters, I feel like we're in a good spot, doing well, and I see green pastures ahead. So looking forward.
That's fantastic to hear. Fantastic, and pretty much an institution with the amount of time that the store has been around. So that's actually fantastic. Thank you. A wealth of experience there. And you just alluded to something that my first question is going to be based on, around some of the narrative on the market and some of the commentary that's put out there. And I guess I wanted to just start with maybe a question for you, Chad, if that's okay, because you speak to a lot of retailers. You pretty much, you got the finger of the pulse on the industry there, I would say. We'll give it a go. So, we see a lot of commentary on the market over the last few years, things like tighter margins. We had that boom in the pandemic and the reconciliation of the market change in distribution, direct to customer, that kind of thing. There seems to be a lot of factors and dynamics and shifting sands out there, right? What are you seeing in terms of a market context out there at the moment? What's your view on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened leading up to the pandemic is our industry was, maybe the term is stagnant, but not a lot of change. We would order product from our vendors, our customers would come in the doors, they'd buy product, and it was very. I mean, we had new products, we had new wheel sizes and stuff, but how business was conducted was very similar. We had introduction of websites in the late '90s, but no significant change. And then you have this pandemic, and everything shifted. How a consumer gets to the retailer shifted, how we buy from our vendors shifted, which then there were inventory challenges. So what really happened is just tons of change. And in some retail, when you say pulse, like I have my finger on one of the pulses of the industry, so I can't speak to everybody, but I know there's some retailers doing really, really well. Mm-hmm. But the ones that are maybe struggling have struggled to change over that time. You hear conversations like, "Man, I can't wait till we get back to 2019 or early 2020 or 2017. Like that was the good times." But change is just something that is always happening, and a great retailer not only is able to change over those times, but is able to look ahead and say, "Hey, there's an indicator that I need to change." And that kind of goes back to, I think, why this call is happening, and that's kind of the numbers.
Yeah, that ability to adapt's key, isn't it? Definitely. I think it's a great point. I mean, Drew, Cory, is that something that you really feel on the shop floor? I know, Cory, you're obviously newer to the cycling sector, but Drew, you've got a lot of time served in there. Is that, that narrative and the ability to change a key determining factor in terms of being able to stick around and, do what you do?
No, definitely. I mean, it's like Chad said, the way people, end up in a bike shop is a lot different nowadays than it was, several years ago. And, sometimes the customers now are coming in knowing more about a given product than you may know, because they're, focused on that one model bike or whatever it may be. And there's just a plethora of information out there. And so now you're trying to catch their attention somewhere in that journey, be it on your own website or through Google Ads or social media, email, and whatever it may be, just trying to get your face and your brand and your bikes, in that arena to try to get their attention and hopefully funnel them into your store and hopefully capture that sale and continue with that rider on their journey, whatever that may look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the customer journey's evolved quite a lot. There's many more channels now, isn't there? Yeah. I guess, Cory, as well, coming from a business background into the cycling sector, did you come into it with a perception that the numbers were going to form the basis of what you do? Did you just kind of hone that a bit more coming into the sector, or did you think that it would be more of a lifestyle thing and you actually wouldn't need to think about that much? It'd be great to get your perception of that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think, coming from a bigger business, and like I said, working in accounting and, working with like our CFO and stuff like that, like you didn't come to him with a proposal and say, well, my gut says this, right? Like you had to have the numbers. So in some ways, like, I think that was kind of pounded into me, is that, you didn't come with a proposal unless you had backup of why you thought, we should do X, Y, or Z. So I think, I definitely have that kind of, lean on the numbers to make decisions background. Yeah. I mean, the business that I purchased was not that way, right? So they were definitely, a very rudimentary system, really no inventory system. So it's been a journey taking what I had when I started and trying to, get the information I needed to make those decisions. For me, it's interesting, Chad said the industry has changed a lot. I mean, for me, like, change is normal, I guess, right? Like, coming into it now, like, the change is normal. But I think, I do sense, and definitely there's been hard things for us. Like, it's challenging, but I do sense a lot of opportunity. Like, I mean, bicycles have been around a long time. They're not going away. E-bikes are not going away. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there, waiting to be captured, really. So for me, it's exciting. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is exciting for the future of the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge, isn't it? But it's an exciting one for sure. Yeah. Okay. I guess that was a really interesting point about that, how you've come into the sector, and Drew, you've taken on this business, right? And I think there's a lot about experience and feel that I think is out there in the independent sector, because people do this as a lifestyle and as a passion, right? Being very focused on the numbers is a bit of a culture shift, isn't it? Did you have to win anyone over in order to do that, whether that was colleagues, business partners, other people in the business?
You could say that. So my dad was, he started the store in 1974, and everything was done on a legal pad and just the old school cash register. And as business started to evolve, and just the importance of managing inventory got just higher and higher on the priority list. It was a little bit of a challenge to get him on board as far as like getting into point of sale software. And even I can think of even one of our longtime team members too. It was kind of the same thing with him. It was just, wait, hold on, we've got to do what now? Everything's easy. We just got this simple system, but you're not able to get the data that you need at any given time from a piece of paper and a pen. I mean, you've got to have that data stored in one place, and more importantly, your data's got to be consistent. We found that out early on. Everybody had different ways of entering different things into the system, and it was just getting everybody on the same page on getting that data in place, so that when we were running reports, we were able to have everything in an organized fashion where we could make sense out of it and get the clarity we need. But once we got over that hurdle and had a few years under our belt, and we were able to get the data needed and see the reports necessary to make business decisions, it was like, okay, this is great. I remember my dad was just getting hungrier and hungrier for it, and it took a few years, but it was that first year he was just constantly bickering about it, complaining about it. But I wish we had done it much sooner, because it just, I don't know, it's you're able to, like Cory was saying, you've got the data to back up your decisions, not just pure gut. It's like, yeah, you've been doing things a long time, and your gut talks to you, and sometimes you have to listen to it, but it's also good to have that data set in front of you to do a gut check, so to speak. So yeah, it was up front, it was a little tough sell on my part, but definitely kept pushing along, and I think everybody was on the same boat, where it was just like, we should have done this a lot sooner.
Yeah, I think there's some great points there. I think there's always a time and a place for experience and gut feel, especially the more embedded you are in the industry. It's not about replacing that, but it's about informing it with more data, right? And more numbers, exactly. I mean, Chad, is that something that you're seeing at the moment? Do you see, like, by and large, people operating off experience and gut feel because that's what's got them to that point? Is there a point where they realize, okay, I've got to kind of change this kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's some biases in place and some challenges, so like if I'm a mountain biker, I am, I'm probably going to lean more towards that, and I'm more likely to stock excess mountain bikes on the floor. Or if I absolutely love, club ride or whatever. And that was the mistakes that I made in my own business, was heavy on mountain bikes, super cool hardtails, and tons of club ride. And the data did not show that. And then there's also you see these program orders of, oh, well, I got to hit that program. So you have some of these factors that are pushing people to order product that wouldn't make sense if they have the data. But we also have I'll go back to that change, that pandemic. We had retailers, maybe growing at this pace, all of a sudden doing this. So they went from a learning stage, maybe they're doing 300, 400,000 a year. Maybe that data didn't really matter because they could count all the bikes with just a look at the sales floor, to all of a sudden they had to have that. And they also had to make sure that their data was entered properly, which means using POs, having categories that make sense, that you can make future orders based off of trends that you're seeing in those categories. So to Drew's point, yeah, data. Like you had like the NVDA, People for Bikes, they have these data programs, and even Citrus Lime has data, and other Lightspeed has it, but the data going in has to be accurate in order to look at a report and say, okay, where am I going compared to this national trend or the trend in this region? And so it's a I think Drew kind of talked about it. It's kind of a steep learning curve. If you all of a sudden get put in this, if you go from $500 to $1 million a year business, that's a steep learning curve when it comes to data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's quite a load to put on a business and try and interpret, isn't it? Yeah. Absolutely. I guess to build on that slightly, because you were talking about buying decisions there, and you kind of touched on that a little bit, and this is more for Cory and Drew really, is can you think of a time when you've maybe got some of those buying decisions wrong? I don't know, like is there anything anecdotal that you could put out there for people to relate to? Because I'm sure we all make mistakes in business, don't we? Yeah.
I can think of in the early days of us having the data, and still, like Chad was saying, still getting those dual suspension bikes, cool hardtails, and club ride. It's like, can't be right. It can't be right. And just totally ignoring it just because, you have that passion for this certain category or certain product. You're like, it's gonna go, it's gonna make it. And eventually you're like, okay, like we've got to take the emotion out of this. The numbers are right there. All you got to do is use them. So yeah, it was having the numbers and not using it initially.
Yeah, and I would add, I think Chad said, he mentioned like the pre-buys, and I don't know if probably not all suppliers do that, but there is this this danger, I think, when they come to you and here's the new program and wow, great terms and there's discounts, like you get kind of excited. You're like, well, man, like this is great. But if you really take a step back, and I have overbought on those, right? Like even in the short time that I've been here, and the problem is, you maybe get inventory that's not turning, and you've tied up your cash with that, and now you feel like you can't order the bikes that you really need that are turning because you got money tied up in bikes that aren't moving. So I think that's a really slippery slope, and something that like maybe before submitting that pre-book order, if you submit one at all, take a step back, rerun, look at what did I sell this year? What did I sell last year? Like, can I justify this order in order to get the number of inventory turns I need? And I think you'll probably, if you do that, you'll probably back down your order significantly from where you started.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, to your point, I mean, it's like the suppliers are always kind of pushing you a little bit further for that 1% more or whatever it may be. And it's like, okay, yeah, spend X amount of dollars to get that 1% more. Now I'm over inventoried, and now I'm having to discount it. And I don't know what the exact number is, but it's something about like if you discount something 10%, it's like you have to sell 40-ish% more of that given thing. And it's like, okay, now what have you achieved, by, doing what they are wanting you to do. So yeah.
And I want to add on, when you have that data, the key to the data is then creating the plan for the whole year. And it's not going to be 100%. If you hit 100% of your plan, buy a lottery ticket. But aim for 75% or 80% or maybe even 60%, or just start at 60%. But if you can plan out your year for what's profitable for you as a retailer, then plug in those programs. Have your turns that you need to hit, have your margins first. Like those are primary, like get those in place so that you have a profit all the way down in that, I guess it's lower, whichever way you're looking at my camera, where you have net profit down in that corner. Then you start plugging that stuff in. And that's when it gets kind of fun, because then you can say, hey, let's bring in this other mountain bike category And according to our plan, we have to have it sold by, this date over here. Let's do a little teaser here with some promos. This is our drop dead date. If it's not moving, if this experiment doesn't work, we know we have to let them go in 100 days or whatever. But know that plan and tell your staff, like, hey, this is our plan. This is how we're going to win this year if we execute this plan. Not even 100%. If we hit 60% of this plan, we are going to have the inventory turns we need, the margin we need, because we're turning our inventory more. We're going to have to manage less of it. We're going to have to know fewer SKUs because we're not ordering 10,000. We only allowed ourselves 8,000. So we had to cut away that other stuff. But that plan is so critical to success, as opposed to emotionally or letting your, nothing against reps. I mean, they want to sell stuff too.
Right.
Letting them kind of take over your business and say, oh, we got to do all this, we got to do all that. But your plan is so important. And using that data to create that plan is essential to being a business owner.
And I just want to quick add to that, what Chad said on, like a buying plan or a budget. Like, I think there's a temptation to say, well, I can't predict the future. Like, how am I going to know what's going to happen next year? Like, why would I create a plan that I know is going to be wrong? But the point, and Chad said, the point's not getting it, I guess, 100% right on your budget. It's getting it 60 or 75% right. And having that plan, even though it's not going to be perfect, is way better than not having any plan at all. So,
and you can pivot on your plan. You can change it. You should be reviewing it as you go.
Yeah, you can plan those contingencies, right, if something's kind of going off track, but you've got a broad direction of travel for everyone, and that's really important in business generally, I would say. So I love that. Some great points made there. I think I was talking the other day with a colleague, and I think he may be on the call, so hi, Patrick. He introduced me to thinking in this way about when you order something from a supplier, that the clock starts ticking as soon as you've ordered it, really, and it's going to cost you money through the logistics to selling it, really. And I thought that was a great way of thinking about it, because you've got a limited amount of time to make the maximum off that. So the plan really supports you to do that. It sounds like, knowing the numbers and knowing that turnover rate and knowing, when something will go based on demand is informing your conversations with those suppliers, with those brands, right? Is that something that's true? Are you going in? Do you feel different going into those conversations now that you have a good understanding of the performance of that stock?
Yeah,
this is for
definitely.
anyone, really. Yeah.
I mean, you're able to, have it in black and white when your rep is saying, man, you need to bring in more of this model, and it's like you've got the data to show, well, look right here, this is what we've sold, this is how long, to your point, this is how long it took to sell it. I mean, I love a birthday party just as much as anybody else, but I hate when bikes have birthday parties. It's like we want as few bike birthdays as possible in here. So yeah, we sold a couple of these models, but like, how long did it take to sell it? What was the margin we sold it at to actually move it? And just having that data there just kind of makes your point a lot more relevant to them, because I mean, it's hard to argue with when you've got the numbers, you've got the quantities of the different categories, the margins of those categories you sold at, how long it took to sell it, what your turns were. And yeah, I mean, it's just like Patrick mentioned, I guess, to you, is it's like holding cost is real. And it's like, think about how many times you have to show, and I know I'm talking about bikes a lot, but it's the thing that we love the most probably out of all this. And it's like every time you show somebody a bike, I mean, that costs them money, especially if they don't buy it. And you have to, keep that thing cool in the summer, warm in the winter, keep the tires pumped, and then periodically somebody might knock it over and you're having to retune the rear derailleur or something. So all of those touch points, that's money. You're losing money every step of the way until it finally sells, and hopefully you sold it at the margin to make it all worthwhile.
Yeah, and I just want to add the difference between making money and losing money on a bike. There's a lot of talk of margin shrinking. I mean, I in the late 90s, I mean, we were getting 50 points on bikes, and right, and it's shrunk a lot. But the difference between making money on a 50% margin bike and a 35% margin bike is not just ordering more at one time. It's actually turning your inventory more. It's reducing the models that you carry and carrying just what sells and just turning it more. And inventory turns, think of it as months of supply on hand. So if you're in a seasonal area, if it's, if it's July, you don't want 6 months of inventory on hand because the snow's going to fall in September. So you want fewer months of inventory on hand, or weeks, depending on how you look at it, that's that data that's important to have.
Sure. Okay, thank you. I think that was a really good a good little segment there on the supplier relationship. I think that's an area that really makes a big difference, right? In terms of knowing the numbers. I think I'm just going to kind of slightly shift to talking a bit about workshop on the service side, right? Before I get into that, I just wanted to put a reminder up. If anybody's got any questions, just stick them in the Q&A. We can pick some of them up as we go, or towards the end. But workshop seems to be cropping up more and more, right? Because of the margin involved and the revenue that it delivers for shops. And I think that looking at Reddit strings, all kinds of things all over the place, everybody's talking about workshop, right? And for both you, Cory and Drew, how vital is the workshop aspect to your store and the service and repair center, as I should say, for the US market?
It took me a minute to get used to that word.
No, it's okay. Yeah. It's this transatlantic thing. We've got to get it right,
Yeah, I would say, talk about margin shrinking on products and bikes. Like, well, how do you make that back? Well, you get more profitable in your workshop or your repair area. And even if sales on bikes, like if somebody's buying a bike online, maybe like the ability to still service it and still make money on that customer, I think is really important. And I think one thing that I've learned, and kind of another thing I've had drilled in my head over the years, is like, pricing is so critical, and that's across the board, but in your servicing, pricing is critical. Like, you can do everything else right, and if you don't get your pricing right, it's not going to work, right? Like, that's probably the most important thing. So we've, over the last 3 years, we've taken our pricing and raised it, significantly, like a lot, and to the point was made me nervous, right? But I think, by and large, like, customers have accepted it, and we've talked through why do we charge this much on a service, and why does it cost me X just to get my tire changed? And when you say, well, it's going to take us this much time, and we've got to do this and this and this, like, they do understand it. So I think, maybe speaking for myself, but I think speaking for the industry, like, we have a tendency to undervalue what we do on the workshop side, and customers don't understand, like, the time or the, maybe the how hard some of those repairs are, how difficult and time consuming they are. And so we need to charge for that. We need to charge adequately. But I think, in order to figure out, well, what do you charge? Well, you need to figure out how much time it actually takes you, and not how much time you think it takes you, because that's always a little bit like, well, I can get this done in 15 minutes, and maybe an hour later, you're still working on it. That's not a 15-minute job, right? So understand how long it takes you and make sure you're pricing adequately.
We did the same thing, Cory. We recently adjusted all of our service pricing, and it was to the point to where even some of the staff was questioning some of it. But I was just like you, like, how long does this actually take you to do? 15 minutes, and it never does. And then things as simple as a rear derailleur adjustment. It's like, think about all the different things that can be causing one problem. A customer comes in, they're like, oh, all you have to do is turn the barrel adjuster. All you have to do is this. And it's like, well, these are all the things that could be causing that, issue with it could be your rear derailleur hanger's bent. It could be your UDH isn't torque to spec. It could be your low limit, your high limit, your B limit, your chain length, your cassette could be loose. I mean, it's just like this humongous list of things that, could be causing this one issue, and you have to know all of those things to be able to fix the given product, and that knowledge is worth something. It's been far too long in the bike industry where it's just like, oh, bikes are so simple, and it's just this, it's just that, or while you have it up on the rack, can you just touch this up real quick? And it's just, you can't work for free, and especially with what is required, you know, to pay good help these days. I mean, you definitely cannot afford to give away service. And so, you know, charging accordingly, valuing your, you know, knowledge, valuing your time, you know, and getting the job done. I mean, that's all worth something. I mean, there's places, and I know I'm a small business owner, so I'll probably look at this stuff a little bit differently, but I mean, I will pay extra for good service. You know, I won't pay for bad service, but it's like if somebody's providing a very high level of service and something's getting done the way it needs to be done on time, you know, as promised, and I'm not having to bring it back after it's after I've picked it up, you know, it's like that's worth something, and that's what we try to offer too. So good for you, Cory. I'm glad to hear I'm not the only person that made that leap, and like you said, it didn't affect anything except our bottom line in a positive way. So
I want to pile on to that. A couple things, like you mentioned, you know, adjusting a derailleur or whatever, but also having an expectation for your staff of what to do when they adjust that derailleur. And a derailleur might not be the best example. Maybe a tune-up is the best. Everything in that tune-up able to be done in the allotted time? And does the technician know exactly what that is? Having been a mechanic, you know, very detail oriented, I would do this even though the requirement was this. And I should have been charging, you know, much more for what I was doing. That was the next tune-up up. And then the other thing is the signals in your service shop that the structure might be wrong. Or let me back up. Most people just think of more service as the way to profitability, which is backwards. It's profitability needs to be there. You need to do an audit. You need to look at the square footage. You need to look at your expenses. You need to create a P&L for your service shop. It's really not that hard because you're not dialing it into, you know, month. You're just looking at a year. But you need to see if your service shop is profitable on an hourly basis, or what your average hourly optimization is. That's when you go, oh, the reason we're not making money is because we've got a broken system and we're piling more stuff into it. And last year, I believe, according to Bicycle Retailer, a survey done, the average hourly shop rate was $86. You know, industry wide, it should be closer to like 125. I know some shops that are doing 150. But if you're like, oh, if you're watching this and you just kind of cringed a little bit, that's probably your indicator that your system is broken and it's not able to be profitable because of something. Maybe you have too much shop space. Maybe you don't have those dialed in metrics for each service item or a time or something like that. Like, look for the signals that it's not your mechanic. So there are a ton of amazing mechanics that in this industry that just know so much knowledge. I mean, they don't have a computer that they can go to and just look up the item and get an answer. I mean, there's YouTube and AI or whatever, but there's not that one resource. It's all these resources that mechanics have compounded all this information to come up with a great solution. But it's not, for the mechanics, it's not work harder, work faster. It's why is the system allowing them to fail? And that's the pricing structure, expectations, the profitability of the shop, and optimization.
And I tell you, there's a lot of things rolled up in it, because on the face of it, it might seem pretty straightforward, but you really need to get under those layers to optimize it, don't you? And I think one of the things you were saying there, Drew, really struck a chord with me as well, in terms of the physical location and offering an experience to your clients as well, because, you know, that reliability that you offer keeps people coming back as well, right? That's always going to win out against convenience, well, more often than not, right? So it's a big pull factor, a big pull factor. Okay, that's great. I think you know, it's clear that you're well into the service center side of the business as well. I mean, Chad, in your views, like how much of the service center side of the sector is operating off that gut feel, and how much has a good handle on what it's delivering to the bottom line?
Can I pass on that question? I think the indicator is if you are booked out multiple weeks, these are the signal. If you're booked out multiple weeks, if you are charging less, if your hourly rate, if your true hourly rate that you're figuring out all your service on based off that rate, if that's below $100, if your mechanics come in the morning looking like death warmed over, like there's so many signals that, like, I see it all the time. Like and Drew, I'd love to talk to you about your service shop because I'd love to know where your successes are and how it feels. Like I don't want to talk about numbers, but again, we chase one more repair or one more bike sale or one more this into a system that's broken. And so it never feels good. But if we take a step back and say, hey, this is our capacity, how can we redesign this to be efficient within these rules? Let's do that. And then let's break some rules. Let's have a mechanic that's a night owl and just come in at 7 when the store closes and works all night with no one bothering. The service person's not asking him about a gravel ride. The salesperson's not trying to show him off a new bar end company that came back from the 80s or whatever. like they can be focused and they can just do production. And I know the pushback is, well, my mechanic does sales, does service, does whatever. That might be one of those signals that there's a problem in the structure of your business, and also might be the thing that's preventing you from scaling. If you look at stages of business, you're stuck here on one of these vertical leaps that's really challenging. So what I'm seeing is out there is a huge opportunity to capture service, because all of these people that bought bikes during COVID, not all of them hung on and continue to ride, but the NBDA data suggests that ridership has actually stayed pretty good. And those people are needing and wanting service, and they're not finding you. I don't know that they're finding you through your website. I think they're finding you through asking people, like, where do you take your bike? And the signal for that would be when you get a phone call or an email or a text message to your store, how many times do they ask you, do you fix bikes? That's a signal that just your messaging is off, and there's a possibility there. So I would suspect that the service departments should be doing 20-25% of your gross sales. If not, there's room for growth there. I'd love to test that somehow. I don't have a way unless everybody calls me tomorrow and we figure it out. But
you can find him on LinkedIn if you do want to.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I got a website. Yeah. I love a good challenge. I love problem solving too. So, but yeah, service should be the cornerstone of our bike stores, because it's something that Amazon can't offer. Right. ChatGPT can't fix it. AI can't fix it. Big box retailers can't fix it. It's something that each retailer can own. And it's not just services of fixing the bike, it's other services too. Concierge services, bike fitting, bike restoration. The concierge would be inviting a person in and just walking through the bike sale at a time where the store's not open and no distractions. Your tickets are likely going to do this because it's a focused interaction, one-on-one, and that customer is going to feel like they are the star of the show.
That is an experience.
It's an experience. Yeah. Drew said that earlier. It's the experience.
Thank you for that. I guess I'm just conscious of time. We've probably got about 10 minutes left here to talk through maybe one or two more questions, if anybody does have any questions that they'd like to add in. I guess I've got a question here what would you say to a shop owner who's doing well on the shop floor but struggling to make the numbers add up at the end of the year? Is there anything that you would say to them that would help kind of get your experience across and help it hit home that they've got to be into the numbers, right? Anybody want to take that away?
Yeah, maybe I could start.
Go ahead, Cory. Go ahead.
I would say maybe if you haven't had an outside look at things for a while, like maybe it's time to just have somebody outside of your business take a look. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes when you're in the business and in the day-to-day, like it's hard to take a step back and figure out like, where am I going? Or what are my wins and losses even? Do I even know them? Maybe I think I know them, but maybe I don't. So just having an outside perspective. I mean, somebody like Chad, right? To just come in and be like, hey, like maybe here's an opportunity or here's something you need to work on. So yeah, I think that's a big thing.
And I was just going to say, finding something to measure, whatever that is, and focusing on that thing and try to make it, improve it, whatever that may be. If it's, getting your service department up, if it's getting your profit margin up, if it's getting your turns higher, whatever it is, picking one thing, focus on it and get that going. And then it's like, all right, this is working. Let's try something else. And kind of just keep bringing everything up, keep elevating things, growing.
And I want to add to that. I'm assuming most bike store owners have friends that are bike store owners or business owners. Share your data and don't be afraid. Like I've worked with so many retailers from, small 200,000 all the way up to 30, maybe 40 million. Mm-hmm. We all have problems. We all miss things in our own business. It's not, I hate to say it, you're not unique in that you're struggling. Like let's just get beyond that and get rid of some of the pride and just say, hey, can you give me 10 minutes to just look at my numbers? Call your even, business owner. They don't even need to be in the bike industry because business is business, numbers are numbers. And then what Drew is talking about, find a KPI. And just, I used to play this game like, this is kind of morbid, but if someone was holding me hostage and I had to fix a number, a KPI, like what is the craziest thing I would do to move that number? And it's kind of a great exercise to do with your employees. It's kind of fun because the first thing is like kidnap people, make them buy bikes, but then that turns into what if we did go to their house and pick them up and brought them to the store, but in a nice way and not in a van, maybe a convertible or a tandem or whatever. Like it turns into these crazy ideas that actually move the needle. But I always loved like that game. Again, kind of morbid.
I'm glad you qualified that idea a little bit further there, Chad. That's good. We certainly weren't advocating that. But your point really resonates with me as well about sharing data, because this is a specialized sector, right? The more niche you get in the sector, the harder it is to get that kind of data. So, if we're in the habit of sharing that, if we're in the habit of working with suppliers more in that way, then everybody wins, right? That's the way it's got to work. It's got to be a collaborative effort rather than just looking after your patch. There'll be an element of that, right? That's why we're in business. But that greater good mentality is what changes the industry, I think. Yeah.
Because you've got, let's just say there's maybe 24, maybe 36 suppliers, and maybe 24 of them have programs. They are creating this structure for 6,500 retailers. Mm-hmm. Like that's like herding cats while trying to tread water and someone giving you a baby. Like they're trying to just a one solution fits all that's super challenging. But go back to your vendor and say, hey, that doesn't work for me. But where I really see profitability is if we do this other thing and I can order more inventory, I can pay my bills on time. This is the win-win for me. A great rep will bend over backwards for that win-win. If they're unwilling to do that, there's other vendors out there. I mean, and maybe it's your rep you shouldn't be talking to, depending on that rep's job description, because it's different from vendor to vendor. Maybe it's the national sales manager you got to talk to, but make it happen. Make the plan, show it to them, be transparent. Say, this is how I make money. I have to turn, the research shows you have to turn your inventory 3 to 4 times to be profitable. I can't do it with this program that you're selling me, but I can do this. But I need those margins, or what have you.
So I've had, as we've been talking about data and things, I've had a couple phrases pop into my head, thinking of KPIs and stuff like that. There's a phrase, what gets measured gets managed. I think that's a really important one. Like, Drew was saying, like, focus on something, measure it, and then it naturally will lead to managing it. The other one with, just making sure your data is good is garbage in, garbage out. I don't know if you guys heard that one. Like, you have to make sure your data going in is good. Otherwise, the reports you get out are essentially garbage. So I don't know, 2 maybe little phrases that I've just had rattling around in my head to maybe help with the data conversation there. So
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Especially, I come from a world of CRM as well, so I understand the principle of using that well so that you can get the reporting from it. And I think it's very true. Very, very true. I think we've got time for maybe one more question. If just a reminder, if anybody wants to ask anything, please pop it in there. We're doing all right for questions now. We've covered a lot of ground, so I'm assuming everybody's getting what they need from the conversation, so that's great. But one last thing I wanted to ask you all, if you were starting again and based on what you know now, what's the one thing you'd have done differently in year one when you either took over the business or when you set up? I'll put that out to the floor if anybody's got any thoughts.
I go back to implementing a point of sale software sooner, than we did. And then on top of that, I would say adding an accounting software in conjunction at that very same moment. We did that a little bit later. And I definitely wish we had done that a lot sooner, where you can, real time, see what your bottom line is, see where your money's going, what your expenses are, what percentage of this is, expense, what percentage of this is where your income's coming from, and just having, even more data to see that bottom line. Because, yes, margin and everything that's going on within the store and inventory is critical, but you've also got to see what is happening after you go through and pay everything. What's that last number look like? So yeah, I would say, again, point of sale software and in conjunction with an accounting software at that very same time.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, I'm stuck on pricing, but that's just where I go. So I would say probably maybe raising my prices quicker, not being afraid to charge more. And maybe part of that is I've come to understand, like, bike retailers do add value, right? Like I'm wrestling through this right now with if a customer, buys a bike online on their website versus on my website, like, should that really be the same price? Like, if they're coming into my store and we're talking about sizing and we're getting them the right bike, like, there's value there that, the shop is adding that I don't know that, we're doing a good job capturing. So I think if I could go back, I'd understand, yes, like, our bike shop is adding a ton of value, and we need to get paid for it, essentially. So not being afraid to raise my prices sooner.
Absolutely.
Those are great. And I would say, I think it's start with 2 million so that you can make $1 million. Is that, I think, what the rule in the bike industry? just kidding. So in addition to both of those things, I would take the step before that, and I would figure out the metrics you need to hit: the inventory turns, the margin, the categories. I would use, if you don't have industry data, there's the cost of doing business report. There's other retailers you can reach out to. But I would find some structure, some data structure, and then make that plan out a year, 2 years. 5 years is going to get a little bit blurry, but have kind of a growth trajectory, and actually make that plan. And it's not a plan like we'll see if we do. It's kind of like the hostage question earlier. It's like if our goal for us to survive is $150,000 this month, what do we got to do to hit it? It's not, are we going to hit it? We might hit it, we might not hit it, but it's every week looking at it and saying, hey, are we hitting our numbers? Is our door counter going off? Is our staff showing up? Is our, different KPIs to indicate each category or each department? Is our service department hitting its numbers? Is the sales department hitting its numbers? But it's that plan. It is that plan for success. Because if you don't do it, you won't. It's that managed, that which doesn't get measured doesn't get managed. It's that, and share it with your staff, and also let your staff be part of it. If you're starting out, you might not have that staff, but if they're involved with it, they'll understand the importance of them. If they're sales, they'll understand the importance of them going out to the sales floor and needing to close on that sale. If they're service, they'll know that if they're grabbing a repair and they look at the ticket and it says this should be done under an hour, they're getting it done within whatever percentage your standards are. That's so important to have in place before you open your doors. You plug it into your point of sale system. You plug it into your QuickBooks or your accounting software. You plug it into your pricing's part of that. It's like, oh, well, we're not making money. Oh, our labor's too low. We got to raise that. Our margin isn't high enough. We got to change that. So definitely that plan.
Being able to pull on those levers to optimize things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm out of questions, which shows how the time's flown by. And I think we said before we joined the call that we'd have a lot of fun on here, and the time will pass quite quickly. I've really appreciated your time. I just wanted to check, has anybody got anything that they'd like to add just as a bit of a parting comment, or like, are we all good? I think we're pretty good then, guys. I very much appreciate your time. I feel like I've learned a good few things on this call. The experience on the panel is, speaks for itself. So thank you so much. And thank you so much to everyone for joining. Really appreciate that. Please keep an eye out. We've got more webinars in the pipeline, and this will be the first of many. So we got off to a great start. Thank you, everyone. And have a great day wherever you are. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.